Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the show. My name is, as ever, Alistair, and...
Hello.
In the box to my... Yes! Got it right.
Well done, sweetie.
In the box over my shoulder is Margaret, who is
Like
also
always,
8
I
feet
am
away.
the angel on your shoulder.
Yes.
Aw.
Yes, you can.
I should get a halo. I
You
need
should.
a halo.
Or just like an elevated tiara.
And then some horns,
Yeah.
to hold up my halo.
For fun.
For fun.
For fun.
Mur is here and demands entertainment. Yes, it's okay, Mur. Entertainment shall be provided.
Entertainment shall be yours,
You're all
Mer.
good. Hello, everybody.
Hi, folks. For those of you who are new, you're probably wondering why we called you here this evening. It is, of course, to do with the murder of Colonel Sanders.
Wait,
Before
what?
he went tits up.
That was like 3 things all at once.
I've said too much. Let's move on.
Yes,
The
yes, you
Pentaveret
have.
are always listening. We do 3 things here. The first is that we introduce ourselves and have a little bit of a chat and big up our amazing opening fan art, which this week is The Hermit by the fantastically named Paul the Assembled on Tumblr.
I love that tarot cards are becoming a new art expression.
I
Resurgence.
very, very nearly resorted to looking behind the couch cushions for money to get the Writer's Tarot deck that has been on Kickstarter for the last
There's
month.
a writer's tarot deck?
Oh yeah, there's like 50 writers picked a book and they did there's been each tarot card is an illustration of a famous book, and then the writer writes a little essay about it.
Why haven't you shared this with me?
Because I thought you'd already seen it, and it's just closed, and I'm hoping Back a Kit is going to be a thing for it.
Okay, alright.
Um,
You have to share these things with me, my love. It's expensive, but
yes.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, fantastic fan art this evening from Poorly Assembled over on Tumblr, and the link is in the chat.
Then we will have an opening monologue, which, as ever, is from our house band, the magnificent Mr. Nate Crowley. You need to buy his books, especially if you are a Games Workshop fan. Nate has done extraordinary things in, I don't want to say humanizing, it would offend them, providing welcome context for the Warhammer 40,000 orcs in particular.
Fleshing out.
Fleshing out.
There
yes.
we go. That's it's a pun.
It's a pun.
Okay.
Also, his 200 video games that don't exist but should is fantastic, as is Notes from Small Worlds, which was longlisted, as many things were, for the Clark Award, the shortlist of which was announced today.
Yes.
I am on that judging panel.
Exactly.
So yeah, after that we will conclude our thrilling novella, 9 Goblins, in which 9 hapless goblins accidentally maybe kind of sort of save the world.
Okay, Eldred says, now I want something where Alistair's cast as a detective and a whodunit. Okay, if he gets to be the ramshackle detective, I get to be Perry Mason. Them's the rules. Have we ever shared that piece of fan art about the cosplay we want to do?
No.
We really need to share Mr. Blue and Miss Green.
Yes.
At some point. Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, it's I have half a pitch for Aconite for that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that would be really, really fun. And
Mr.
yes, thank you very much. We've got some people renewing their subscriptions this evening.
Thank you, folks.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Real quick, Aconite are a company who produce Marvel tie-in fiction, not set on any of the canonical Marvel Earths, so you can have a little fun. Mr. Blue and Miss Green is this idea we had about a problem-solving company, which is set up by Hank McCoy, also known as Beast, and She-Hulk.
Also known as Jennifer Walters.
The idea being that they will come in and they'll basically, to quote the song, tour your facility and pick up slack. Unless your facility is bad, in which
Really?
case...
You're going to wear the short skirt and I'm going to wear the long jacket, or vice versa?
It depends who paid for dinner the previous night, I'm guessing.
Deal.
Yeah, okay. And it's basically 2 kind of urbane, funny Marvel characters bantering at one another. Moonlighting with punching, for those of you of a certain age. And
Brick Brownstone, Dumbo, troubleshooting building full of, down on their luck supers.
yeah,
We love you, Charles Schulz, She-Hulk run. Thank you so much.
yes, we do. So yeah, that's a thing that may at one point be pitched. What else have I got? I think that's about it.
Well, the only other thing where you were going to add, folks, is there is a lot of news happening tonight. We're not going to be talking about the news happening tonight. Please practice good self-care. There's a lot of feelings in the environment, and we hope that this will be a nice escape. There will be a little bit of drama because it's an Ursula story,
and we have emotions.
But we're not gonna linger on current events or anything.
No.
So if you need a place to not linger on current events, you're in the right place. I can't believe I just thumbs up like you did. Oh my god, I even did the tongue click. Ah!
Changing the subject hurriedly.
Oh, we're also not going to talk about the sport event. I just hear spontaneous screaming every once in a while, and I just chalk that up to the sport event that is occurring. I do not speak the sport event. Not for me, great for you, but not what we're here to talk about tonight.
Wendy, this is probably something which only you will recognize, but one of the comedy sketches that is written on my soul is the 24-hour news presented by a man who has been up for 24 hours, which was Johnny Vegas's entryway into television. Basically, he snuck his way in on this and then just never went home. And it is a disheveled man on the street who initially starts off moderately coherent, and they just keep cutting back to him across the course of the show. And Johnny Vegas has this very distinctive voice. He's quite northern, but it's also very strangulated like this all the time. And by the time it cuts back to him on the fifth one, he's just hurling...
Poor Wendell.
Sorry, Wendy. Hurling pages of his script at the camera, screaming, "News! Nothing but fucking news! Never the weather! Never cut to the weather, just news! All the fucking time!" And that's how today has felt. We're not doing that here, don't worry.
Okay, good, because I barely understood that. So.
It's fine. It was pretty much just for me and for Wendy.
And for Wendy. That's okay. That's totally legit.
Why is this so English and so funny? We should have that in Latin above the lintel of the door.
Exactly. Are we not all roundabouts? Hello to the raid. Thank you for joining us. You just missed a discussion of the not sports, and you have not missed the opening monologue.
No.
So you are here in excellent time.
Shall we now jump to that?
Shall we jump to the opening monologue?
Let's jump to the opening monologue.
All right.
This is by Nate Crowley, our house band. Hello, Nate, if you're watching, and if you're watching on the VOD. And this comes from Rock Paper Shotgun.
And if he's watching on the VOD, it's probably too late and he should go to bed. Go to bed, Nate.
I created high-concept exhibits of Planet Zoo's newest animals, and they're really upsetting. Planet Zoo is a deeply warm-hearted game. While it's set up to give you as much freedom as possible.
Oop. Hold on a second. We're getting reports that the mic has gone wonky.
Of course it has.
Shall we back up?
Let's back up.
How is that doing, folks? Is that better? Let's give it a second. Hang on. Can you go ahead and talk for me, Mike?
How am I coming across now, everybody?
Looks like we had a crosswire going on. All right, so now you need to do the caution. This vehicle is reversing. That thing I hear at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Caution, this vehicle is reversing.
Oh, God. I mean, British garbage trucks are very polite, but they're very loud.
David, I'm reversing.
Did you just?
Yes.
Oh,
yes, I did.
Oh, my. All right, let's try that again.
I created high-concept exhibits for Planet Zoo's newest animals, and they're really upsetting. Planet Zoo is a deeply warm-hearted game. While it's set up to give you as much freedom as possible in every aspect of your zoo's design, it still steers you firmly towards being good to the animals which live there. Unlike Frontier's other animal husbandry game, Jurassic Park Evolution, where everyone knows the management layer is just a way of killing time until the inevitable monster death matches, Planet Zoo does absolutely nothing to signpost Nightmare Animal Supermax.
Nightmare Animal Supermax is tonight's gender. That's glorious.
As a valid playstyle. Personally, I think that's a good decision. But as I already mentioned, it puts a genuinely phenomenal range of construction tools at your disposal.
Hello to the raid. Thank you for joining us. We're in the middle of the opening monologue by Nate Crowley.
If you can think of a habitat concept, the chances are you can build it. And inevitably, when a game gives me that much freedom to do my own thing, it's only a matter of time before I move things into just deeply unsettling territory. This week, I had Planet Zoo's new Southeast Asia DLC pack to play with, featuring 8 new beasts and a huge bundle of new construction assets. I made a new zoo in sandbox mode, and while it was pleasant enough for the animals which lived in it, I did everything I could to inflict profound psychic damage on the visiting public. Come take a tour with me.
Because of course you did, Nate. Because of course you did.
Bin World. Welcome to Bin World. The first thing when you see when you enter the zoo, this hulking, windowless concrete silo looks like it might contain some sort of genetically engineered devil. But it does not. It contains 3 reeking, raccoon-faced beasts called binturongs. Binturongs are also called bear cats because they somehow combine the most dismal aspects of bears and cats. And while I quite like them in real life, in my zoo I decided to treat them with utter contempt. They are fed superb food, I must stress, and have all their needs met to exacting standards, but at the end of the day, they still live in a massive rectangular concrete pit, which even the most archetypal Victorian bastard would have said looked a bit bleak.
I've actually been to that zoo. It is a bit bleak. And have a great night, Anil. Thanks so much for coming on over.
If I were to say the words Manx Safari Park to you, I would have to immediately follow them up with, oh no, it's much worse than you think.
When I think Isle of Man, I do not think safari.
Jesus,
that
a lion?
That is true.
I think we had a couple of elk for a while. There was an otter that played with a staple in the bottom of his tank too.
A stapler?
A staple.
Staple.
Not a stapler. Thumb's too high. They checked that. Anyway, bear witness. B-E-A-R. Oh, she's gone. She's gone. She's spun out and hit the barriers.
You may proceed, sir.
Bear witness. B-E-A-R. Buckle up, mates. This one is seriously high concept. Bear Witness, the zoo's star attraction, houses somewhere in the region of 30 Malaysian sun bears. Seriously, I lost count as I just couldn't stop myself from buying the magnificent little gits. In a gigantic elevated amphitheatre. So far, so much like a Tudor pub, right? Well, there is a scintillating twist on the usual bear pit formula here, because in this zoo, the bears observe the guests. Upon passing under the rock archway...
Oh dear. Passing under the rock arch of... What was that?
Upon passing under the rock archway to enter the exhibit, guests find themselves confronted with a single...
We're going to have cascade failure any moment here. Okay.
Guests find themselves confronted with a single cramped toilet.
Oh no! Oh no, that's so very wrong!
Preston! Pressed in on all sides by glass walls.
No!
Beyond the glass, terraces rise up on all sides. And this is a direct quote. And they are absolutely ramo.
Nate's Zoo, Fat Bear Week is every week. It just kills me.
And they are absolutely ramo with bears. Do you think...
Oh, we're gone.
Oh, God. Oh, kill me.
Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. You can do this. I believe in you.
Do you think you could muster the gumption to take a dumption?
He did not write those words. Nate Crowley, how very dare you?
With a massive crowd of bears running about just a few feet away.
I am convinced he wrote that line just to make you read it.
Oh my God. Well, it doesn't matter either way, because the toilet's been busted since day one, and I'm not fixing it. Oh, Jesus.
Okay, hold on a second. Let's back this up, because Calligrapher's in the chat and is like, I have to write that? Okay, catch your breath, and I will attempt to find and reread that line with us moderately. Okay, here we go. Do you think you could muster the gumption to take a dumption?
There we go.
With a massive crowd of bears running about just a few feet away. Well, it doesn't matter either way, because the toilet's been busted since day one, and I can't be bothered to fix it.
Next, the mysterious catabasis. In Greek myth, a catabasis is a descent into the underworld, which rarely goes well for those who undertake it. What's it got to do with Southeast Asian wildlife? Nothing. I just really fancy digging a huge pit. As such, at the centre of the zoo, visitors will find a yawning pit surrounded by shattered Doric columns, offering no clue as to what lies beneath. The only way to discover the truth is to follow the rickety torchlit path down into the abyss.
Abyss is good. Every zoo needs an abyss, right?
Goes on for a long time, that path. So generous is Planet Zoo in its provision of underground real estate that the walkway winds around a good third of the entire site footprint before it finally reaches the bottom. And what awaits those visitors bold enough to venture all the way down into this forbidden deep? A three-headed hound? Bloke with a foul temper and a dead crab on the end of a rope? Nope, it's a box with 3 leaf insects in it. Psych! Enjoy them because you've got 1,000 or so stairs to climb before you can see daylight again.
This sounds like something they would do in Animal Crossing. Absolutely.
I have a terrible feeling about this.
Dig? Uh-oh.
Monkey Zone.
There they go.
How hard can it be? I thought to myself. I know.
Not a great start.
To use Planet Zoo's terrain sculpting tools to make a half-decent sculpture of a proboscis monkey's face in which to house proboscis monkeys.
Because of course he did.
Pretty fucking hard, it transpired. After an hour and a half of ham-fisted earth moving left me with, and there are just 3 dots and this. The monkey zone would be horrifying enough were it just the size of a reasonable village church. But alas, there is nothing reasonable about its size. The problem with the terrain sculpting tools, you see, is that it's very easy to lose all sense of perspective when using them on a blank site. And so, without any frame of reference, oh god, I'm not going to make it. I ended up making a gurning ogre head with an internal volume slightly greater than that of the Basilica of St. Peter at the Pope's house. Panicking over what to do with all that space, I built a rainforest on the inside and enclosed it in a ring of 120-metre high glass walls.
I love how you just barely stopped yourself from sliding into Murray there. I built the rainforest. It still looked a bit empty, however, even with the monkeys installed, so I gave it that most classic of finishing touches, an Australia-themed shit house. It's just as non-functional as the one in Bear Witness, but the monkeys don't give a literal or figurative shit. The Pope's house. Because, of course, that's where you would hold monkeys.
And finally, God help us all, the leopard cloud. I know clouded leopards are named for the way their fur looks, but for the purpose of this exercise, let's just pretend they're mystical beasts of the sky, which will only tolerate living quarters placed extremely high up in the air. Whether that's the case or not, I've got them covered with this gravity-defying lump of rock, like one of the ones off of the film Avatar. Admittedly, it's not the most convenient place to reach. If an animal gets sick, for example, a zookeeper must haul it down a half-mile of spiralling wooden staircase to get it to the vet. And for visitors, especially those who've already tasted the bitter surprise of the mysterious catabasis, it's an utter leg buster. But I think that's fair. It'll just sort out the visitors with a true passion for leopards from all the fake fans. Upsettingly, I couldn't get the game's offline market to sell me a clouded leopard for love nor money, so I've just put a tiger in there for the time being. Hope he doesn't fall down any of the pits I've drilled through the island.
Why are there pits in the floating islands, Nate? You failed to mention this fact. I guess that's the fast way to get back down if you've done all that walking.
It took me a shockingly long time to build just these 5 exhibits, so my zoo has yet to feature the Southeast Asia Pac's other 3 debut animals, the Malayan tapir, the Ussuri dhole, and North Sulawesi babirusa. But I like to think I'll make some sort of castle for the pig with a moat full of otters. Of the new creatures, I think the sun bear is my undisputed favourite, but as ever, I can't help but feel the true king of Planet Zoo's jungle is its terrain editor. Just take one more look at Monkey Zone, and tell me I'm wrong.
You are wrong, Nate. You are very wrong in so very many ways. And,
Good Lord.
And we love you, but dear Lord.
Oh, I'm going to see Bear Witness in my dreams.
Oh, I know you are. I know you are. It's going to be awful. It's just going to be awful.
Yeah, I think I've had a couple of camera glitches, Pip.
Say again?
Second breakfast, Pip saying, anyone seeing camera glitches? I got a couple of weird kind of janky moments out of the corner of my eye, but I didn't see anything full on.
No, I haven't seen any glitches on our end. So, well, yeah, I think we may have a new record for the corpse count for both of us.
Yes, I think we do.
Oh Lord, that one's gonna be tough to beat.
Okay.
But please nobody tell Nate that. Please don't make him take it as a challenge, because then he's gonna literally write like
he's gonna do it. You know that.
And make us read it and make us read it. But
I needed that.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I feel refreshed.
Oh, yeah. People are saying that's just a lumberjack cat boy coming through, so don't mind him. Did you close the bedroom door? Uh-oh. I'm sure it's fine.
Yes.
I'm sure it's fine.
Maybe.
So we give a very brief recap of where I am. Where I am.
Where you are.
That's an excellent question. Where am I?
Oh, it's been a long week.
It's been a very long week. So it's the end of... I'll go first. It's end of quarter. I finished the end of quarter. I want to curl up into a ball and sleep for a week. We're taking a long weekend. I can't wait. I only have like 12 meetings.
Hooray!
Yay. So yeah, been a very full-on couple of weeks, but we've rounded the corner, and now hopefully it'll be a little bit more relaxed. And I see you, Zalia, with almost writing Peter instead of Alistair, and I would never admit to having done that. Never.
Of course not. Why would you? Yeah, I've got the newsletter finished for the week, and I still have some podcast stuff to do, and we get to pick up my CPAP machine tomorrow. Because, because I have officially been diagnosed with sleep apnea.
Sleep robot.
So tomorrow I get my sleep bot. So there's a tiny part of my brain going, we should worry about this. And the rest of my brain's like, no, we shouldn't.
We should also show the boy before we forget.
The fungus of Chungus.
The fungus of Chungus. Like the rest of us, Chungus is a bit warm. And Chungus needs some more summer wardrobe. He's doing quite well on chunky jumpers, but they don't have any like summer. They need Hawaiian shirts. Bermuda shorts. I don't know how you would make shorts for a jar. Skirts are much better. He needs a Bermuda skirt.
I desperately want to hum the Magnum theme tune, but I know they'll cut the audio.
Yeah, so let's not do that. No, let's not do that. Chungus Fungus sold over to Goblin Core. Exactly. Well, we thought it was appropriate for the conclusion, didn't we?
We did.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Oh! Calligrapher's put it in the chat. Please pardon me. I'm going to tag Nate with it. Yes, thank you. I love it. Well done. Thank you so much. And I'm going to add that over here for Ducky for the stream notes.
Gumption to take a dumption.
Just, what a line, man. What a line.
Calligrapher, you are the best.
Thank you so much for that. What else is going to be going on with you this week? It's been the second your week off. You've had a hard time with the fact that you turned in a big book almost 2 weeks ago, and I'm making you take time off. And
every word that has come out of my brain feels like dirt for 2 weeks.
Well, that's because we're not very good at resting. We need more practice, and so that's been enforced this last 2 weeks, and it's been difficult. And yes, Pezzy, a hula skirt would be amazing for Chungus. Chungus would totally hula. I insist on the little coconut top, though.
But yeah, the book is in. Celestial Navigation is my favourite Westwood episode.
Hey, stop it.
And for the last couple of weeks, I've just been on station keeping. And that's meant that basically, because I did like 25,000 words worth of critical writing in quite a short space of time, my critical writing faculties are noodles. And then I made the mistake of going, I'll write about Bo Burnham's extremely interesting and thematically complex new Netflix special Inside this week. And that's a little closer to my brain than I want it to be in a couple of ways to start with. And then a really good friend of mine put together a fantastically good piece about it. And I was like, well, shit, I should just burn my keyboard.
No, you should not. Will is very good, but you are also very good. And you will have very good other things to say when your brain is not noodles.
I hope my nothing is as good as White Girl's Instagram. I hope my brain will stop being noodles very soon. I would like to think that the part of me that is slightly preoccupied, not with tomorrow, but with the fear of tomorrow not working, and idiotically with the fear of tomorrow working. Yeah.
2K.
That perhaps, things will suck less in my brain. I hope they will. I think they will.
They will.
They're going to.
So before we go back onto the recap, should we talk just really briefly about what's coming up next, or do you want to do that at the end of the
let's do that now.
Yep, go ahead.
So we are about to head into a summer of chattery, basically. We have a couple of really fun guests lined up starting next week. Mm-hmm. The first of which is a very good old friend of ours, Jen Williams, who is an amazing fantasy novelist, an award-winning fantasy novelist, no less, who has just stepped across to crime for her first novel, and good grief, it's amazing.
It's really good.
And Jen is responsible for arguably the single greatest line of dialogue I've ever read in a fantasy novel, which is, great, now get on your giant bat and fuck off. And then the week after that we have...
the fine Matty O.K. Smith will be joining us to talk all things neighborly, which I'm very, very
Matty, I'm looking forward to that.
We're really looking forward to having a good chat with Maddie. And then we have a couple more guests who we are in the process of nailing down right now, but we'll announce them as soon as we have their dates confirmed. But
yes, indeed.
We're basically doing a summer interview series for the month of July is the goal, just to give us a little bit of a break and to talk to some great people about some great stuff. And then after that, we're looking into... playing? I don't know if playing is the right word. Navigating some visual novels that have been brought to our attention, where there's some really nice hand-drawn animation and some really nice branching storylines, but there's no voice acting, so Alistair and I will be doing the voice acting for the visual novels. But we're still kind of playing with those and figuring out which one we want to do and making sure we have proper content warnings on them and stuff.
So many Welsh people.
Really? Uh-oh.
No, they might all be from Yorkshire. All right, you want to go up to the haunted mansion? No.
Oh, Werner Herzog all the time.
Oh, Werner.
Yeah. We don't have a list of them quite yet, Grim. We'll come back to you.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, there's a lot of them out there, actually, which is really nice for people like us talk.
There's also, this may not be happening on this particular window, but one of the things that we're talking about streaming at some point is, I believe, Nina Aquila Legal Eagle.
Yes, I really want to stream that. It comes out next week. We are away next weekend, but when we are back, and if some of our guests aren't able to confirm in time, I might take over Wednesday night and play Nina Aquila Legal Eagle, which is a legal procedural dating sim game?
Yes.
I'm not quite sure exactly how it's described, but I know that Ben is one of the characters in it, and it involves a lawyer. So I'm in,
And that you're totally getting it for your birthday.
Well, I appreciate that. The other thing I'm getting for my birthday I'm very happy about, just got announced, I'm sorry, I'm very excited, is, so Greedfall is one of my favorite video games of the last couple of years. It got a really... justifiably bad reputation when it was first trailed, because its trailers looked like it was Colonialism, the game, and everybody was like, But then several friends of mine played it, and it has very BioWare-esque moral choices, character development, romance options, and I love it to pieces. I've played it through once and a half now, and it's great. And they just announced a free 4K upgrade, a PS5 release, and free DLC that I just downloaded this evening.
Which has new quests.
Which has a whole new, quest area and stuff. So I'm probably just going to play the game all over again, which I'm very excited about. Yes.
Excellent.
We're going to need a That's Not How the Law Works counter, aren't we? Oh, yes, Wendy. Oh, yes, we are. We should get like a little gavel, and it could just go, no, every time something goes wrong. And I don't think numbers go that high. It's going to be great.
Okay. Cool.
Cool. Cool. All right, goblins, where were we?
Previously, all kinds of things had gone all manners of pear-shaped.
Hold on just a second. There you go.
Notionally heroic squad of goblins. Yeah, Haven's lovely. Really good. Have discovered two things in short order. Sings to Trees, who is a very unusual elf, who's basically an elf veterinarian for magical creatures, and a human village full of dead people, all of whom appear to have been attracted to some singing. They too were attracted to this singing, and they discover that the small girl, who's the only survivor who appears to be responsible for it. They discover this right around the time the Elven Rangers ride up, and, for want of a better word, nick them.
They were nicked. Nicked is the appropriate descriptor there.
So they are extremely arrested, because obviously when you find a village full of dead bodies and a couple of goblins going, and a little girl going, I'm so glad you're here, you're not going to nick the child, unless you're Will Smith in Men in Black.
Would that they all were Will Smith in Men in Black.
Meanwhile, Sings to Trees, aided by his terrifying skeletal deer buddy, has tracked down the wizard who was responsible for dropping the goblins here in the first place, who has been revealed to be the older brother of the girl.
Dun dun dun!
Content warnings are horror themes, mental health and trauma, socio-political themes, possible feelings. Let's do it.
And now, the exciting conclusion of
Nine Goblins. Kung kung. Their bonds had been loosened and they had been given water. When the goblins were retied, the elves let them keep their hands in front. Nasilka debated requesting the teddy bear again, then decided not to push her luck. Do you think he believes us? Asked Murray. No. He has to know we couldn't have killed all those people, and they've been dead for days. He don't have any way to know how long we've been here. Nasilka sighed. Think it through, Murray. He did. She saw his face fall. He scowled. Nasilka nodded. He's caught us. There could be dozens of goblins in the woods, and he just doesn't know it yet. We could have been transported here weeks ago. We could have been killing people all that time. We could have our own wizard with us. She considered this. I'd be surprised if they hadn't heard that voice thing as they were approaching. That girl had a heck of a range. Murray considered this. I think she might have been focusing it on us. When we were hearing it before, it didn't give me that horrible headache. I could move a lot faster. Knowing that your enemy has the ability to focus her powers was not comforting. Nasilka rested her forehead on her knees. Well, regardless, they don't know how many of us there are. They may think we've got a wizard. Oh, maybe Blanchett is a wizard. They don't know. Blanchett focused his eyes with apparent difficulty and said, No. Nasilka forced a smile. Glad to have you with us again, Blanchett. The bear, he said, still on a mission. I'll wait then. He lay down on his side and, to all appearances, went to sleep. Nasilka envied him. A few minutes slid by, and then Murray said, Sarge, what? It's worse than that. It may not matter if he believes us or not. Nasilka glanced over at the tent. Late afternoon shadows stretched over the grass, but there was no movement. It doesn't... The other goblin gestured as well as he could, with his wrists bound together. Look, there are people who don't like the war, right? I'm not terribly fond of it myself, Murray. No, I mean... Civilians. Oh. Them. Well, Sings to Trees thinks the war is bad. And there's probably more like him out there. Maybe not so many elves, but what about the humans? They're doing most of the fighting. They're probably getting bloody tired of it. Great grim gods, no I am. Nasilka glanced at their guard. He had not moved an inch in the last 2 hours. He had to watch for a full minute to make sure he was blinking. So, said Murray, say you've got people getting tired of the war. Then you get a bunch of goblins showing up and wiping out a whole human village. Do you think those people are still going to be tired of it? Nasilka scowled. That's politics, Murray. Well, yeah. A lot of people die of politics. She was suddenly very glad that she hadn't told the elf captain about the rest of the regiment, or about things to trees. They sat in the sheep pasture while the shadows grew so long that they joined up to each other and became evening. Hey, Murray. Yes, Sarge. Maybe they'll figure out we were right and they'll give us medals. It's very funny, Sarge. Torches were lit outside the tent. Someone started a campfire. When Nasilka looked back to their guard, she saw his pupils dilated as wide as a cat's in the dark. It was an unsettling look. Goblin eyes didn't do that. She engaged in a few moments of recreational xenophobia, which didn't help at all, but it did help pass the time. Someone came towards them with a torch. Nasilka was hoping for food, but it was Captain Finchbones again. He did not crouch down this time, but said, without preamble, "The human girl says that you and the wizard killed everyone in the village." Nasilka shook her head. "No," she said. Fishbones narrowed his eyes. "Where is the wizard?" "Not us. Girl is wizard." "Oh, what's the point? They're not going to believe a couple of goblins. If Murray's right, it doesn't even matter if they do or not." "Ask the old man," said Murray suddenly. It took Nasilka a full minute to remember what he was talking about. It had been that long a day. And then she sat up. "Yes, old man. Old man alive. In-house. Old man saw us. Gave him water. And he may decide we're responsible, or he may be dead, but I suppose it's better than nothing. At least he can testify we didn't kill him when we had the chance." Murray nodded. "We told the wizard girl he was alive. She didn't like that." Finchbones shook his head slowly. "It's very likely that you were lying," he said. "But for the life of me, I can't figure out why you'd lie about this. It's easily checked anyway." He turned to the elf with the torch and issued a few short commands in Elvish. The man nodded and hurried away. This left them in relative darkness. The elven captain's eyes dilated in the same fashion as the guards. Nasilka hadn't noticed that effect with Sings to Trees, but she supposed she hadn't been paying attention. What was Sings thinking now that they hadn't shown up? Would Algol wait until Thumper had healed, then take the group of them to Goblin Home? They'd practically walk by the elven camp if they did. "I will get to the bottom of this," said Finchbones. "I don't believe you were alone out here, and I think goblins turning up in a dead village is too much of a coincidence. But there are a great many things that don't add up either. Like our free goblins caused herds of farm animals to trample themselves to death, say. No, I suppose they'll blame that on the hypothetical wizard we're apparently working for." "We are rangers," said Finchbones. "We can track a squirrel through 1,000-mile forest. We will find out where you came from and what has happened here." Nasilka met his eyes squarely. "Good. Then we'll understand. Then we'll grant fairness, as prisoners of war. If you can grandstand, son, so can I." She only wished she had the words to do it well. His eyes did not look tired any longer. He nodded once, turned on his heel, and left. "Do you think he'll ask her about it?" asked Murray. "If he does," said Nasilka, "I imagine we'll know in a few minutes." Nasilka's estimate was off by almost an hour. Possibly Finchbones had been subtle with his questioning, or maybe he'd sent someone to go find the old human. Nasilka rather hoped that the old man had pulled through. Somebody ought to, our odds don't look like good. And then, just as the moon came up and sat on top of the hedgerow, the voice began again. "Oh, hell," thought Nasilka. Their guard's head jerked up, and without a glance at them, he began to walk towards the command tent. "This is our chance. We can escape. We can get away. Yeah, no, I'm crawling towards the tent, aren't I? Oh, lovely." The really obnoxious thing about this magic was how knowing what was happening to her didn't change anything. She knew perfectly well that there wasn't a conversation, but it was so close, that she'd never understand it unless she got just a little bit closer, close enough to make out the words, that even if she did understand it just a little closer, that it was coming from the throat of a deranged killer who had destroyed an entire village, apparently as bait for a group of elves. I wonder if they heard what she was actually saying before they died. She tried to stand up, but the elves had hobbled her feet with such a short length of rope that crawling covered the ground more quickly. Murray shuffled along next to her. "Sarge?" asked Blanchett, slow and puzzled, and Nasilka sank her teeth into her lower lip, because she knew how hard it was for him to talk without the bear thinking for him, but he was making it harder to hear the words, and she could swear she almost got a full sentence that time. Just about. She put her arm in a gopher hole and went into it up to the shoulder. Murray crawled past her as she struggled to extricate herself. Then Blanchett went past, with a very odd look on his face, except that he was going the wrong way, not towards the command tent at all, but veering off to one of the others. Nasilka managed to think, never get near the voice that way. Where is it? Oh, good thinking, Blanchett. Good job. And then she found herself shushing her own thoughts, trying to listen to the voice that was almost there. Just a little closer, just up to the back of the command tent now. There were elves pushing up against the walls of the tent. One lifted his sword to cut through the fabric, and then the voice changed. Nasilka stifled a scream, and now it was the same as it had been in the church. Now it was painful. Now the conversation was a buzz that was going to pry the tiny bones of her ears loose and throw them like jacks inside the chambers of her skull. Murray, a few yards ahead, sank down to his belly and tried to shield his ears as best he could, with his arms tied together at the wrist. I wonder if this is how those people died. A mountain of flesh passed in front of her vision. Something picked her up, one-handed, and tucked her against what felt like a wall of warty skin. Nasilka's head was hurting terribly badly, and if she could just hear what the voice was saying, that pain would stop. That must be what it was talking about, how to stop the headache. But what is carrying me? How is something carrying me? The creature reached down, grabbed Murray too, and then began moving towards the tent. Nasilka approved of this, because it was getting her closer to the voice, and it was moving much faster than she could. Her captor came around the side of the tent, and Nasilka saw the girl. She was standing a few feet from the front of the tent, and there was a ring of elves around her, all of them on their knees or curled on their sides, holding their head. Finchbones had a crossbow and was struggling to raise it, but his hands were shaking so badly he couldn't even get it off the ground. There was another creature there as well, like the one carrying Nasilka. It was holding a struggling sinister trees around the waist, and in its other arm, well, she wasn't going to forget that human's face in a hurry. For one thing, he was still wearing a cloak. The girl saw the wizard and snapped her mouth closed. "John!" she cried, dashing towards him. Nasilka's brain felt like a crumpled ball of paper suddenly smoothed flat. The elves gave a collective moan of relief. Finchbones lifted the crossbow and fumbled with the bolt. The large creature set the wizard down hurriedly. Sinister Trees, hanging limply in the monster's other arm, babbled something to it in Elvish. The girl threw her arms around the wizard, John's neck, and said, somewhat muffled, "I knew it would work. I knew they'd have to bring you back if there was nobody else to take care of me." Nasilka twisted her head and looked up at the creature holding her. Had it been immune to the noise? It looked back down at her, had a wide, froggy mouth and enormous eyes. Looked like a toad, crossed with a bull, crossed with a small hillside. "Grah!" it said cheerfully. "The trolls, Sarge," said Murray. "Sinister Trees talked about them. I think they're friends of his. Gra, 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 gra! Where's Blanchett? Whispered Nasilka. I don't want an elf shooting him if he's wandering off. I haven't seen him, Sarge. Maybe he's on the other side of the tent. Finchbones managed to get the crossbow loaded and raised it up. Sir, he said with a heavy accent, must move back from her now. Nasilka felt a distinct stab of pleasure that the elven captain spoke this dialect rather worse than she did. Now who sounds unintelligent? Ha! Wizard and girl both ignored him. The wizard said, Elizabeth, what have you done? Nothing, said the girl. Well, I shouldn't have had to do anything. They shouldn't have taken you away. Finchbones tried again. Sir, move back. Now. John not only didn't move back, he held Elizabeth more tightly. Any crossbow bolt would go through both of them, and Nasilka was pretty sure the wizard knew it. I'm sorry, sir, he said. Did she do something bad? Finchbones looked tired and grim. Killed. Village. Many killed. Move back. Elizabeth, the young wizard looked down at her. They wouldn't bring you back. I told them I'd do it if they didn't bring me back. They didn't listen. Sings to Trees put his hands over his face, looking grey. I had to go away, Elizabeth. It's so much better. They explain things and nobody's scared of me. You shouldn't have done this. Finchbone said something to one of the other elves. This elf said, The captain is warning you. You must step away from the girl. She is extremely dangerous. At this time, we cannot guarantee your safety. Elizabeth glared up at her brother. So you're glad you went away? The boy was a poor liar, Nasilka thought. She was another species. Even she could see the answer on his face. Fine, yelled the girl. Fine, if that's how it is. I'm sorry I ever wanted you to come back. The girl pulled back. Finchbones jerked the crossbow up, and she opened her mouth and made the noise again. Nasilka had to give it to Captain Finchbones. His hands were shaking badly, and the shot went wild, but it went past her left shoulder with only inches to spare. And he did all this while everyone else was slamming their hands over their ears. The only reason Nasilka didn't cover her own ears as well was because her arms were firmly pinned to the troll's side. The trolls didn't seem bothered by the noise. They were looking at the humans with baffled expressions. Gra? Said one, uncertainly. Sings whimpered, and the troll holding him picked him up, cuddled him, and said worryingly, Gra! Gra, gra? Oh, we have got to stop doing this, Nasilka said wearily. We know there's no conversation. We know there's nothing to understand. My head is going to come apart if I hear much more of this. Gra. Finchbones crawled, inch by agonizing inch, towards the girl. He was still clutching the crossbow, perhaps planning to bludgeon her to death if nothing else presented itself. John, closest to the source, had gone to his knees. He reached for his sister, but she stepped out of the way. Her eyes narrowed, and the voice, if anything, got worse. Nasilka felt as if a mule were kicking her repeatedly between the eyes. Our brains are going to melt. There's going to be blood coming out of our ears very soon. It wasn't just trampling these. Oh, these people died of this. Graw, said her troll. It fidgeted, crushing her more tightly against its side. Nasilka's vision filmed with red mist. Something moved. It strode past the fire, past the torches, and even through the film of red, Nasilka thought it moved like a goblin. Blanchett? Blanchett was wearing his helmet. He took one more step forward, reached up, plucked the bear from his helm, The voice redoubled. The girl had seen him. It focused, concentrated, and the Silka began screaming because it drowned the sound out just a little, and that was good. Anyway, everybody else was screaming too. Blanchett wound up, took 2 running strides, flung the bear across the sea of screaming elves, and it hit the girl square in the face. He always did have good aim. The voice ended in a very unmagical squawk. Nazilka considered how long the bear had been in battle. Months. And how often it had been washed. Never. And just how foul it must be. Probably got a lot of Blanchett's rancid hair gel on there too. I don't even want to know what that stuff's made of. Even somebody who had been surrounded by corpses for a week might draw the line at taking that particular bear to the face. I love this so hard. Sings to Trees yelled in Elvish. The trolls holding the Silka dropped her, gently, and lumbered forwards. The girl's face vanished under a large, hooved paw. Graw, it said. Sings to Trees nodded. John stood up. I'm sorry, sir, he said to no one in particular. I have to take her away. It's too dangerous. I'll make a hole. Finchbones coughed, spat, and tried to say something. His vocabulary did not seem up to either summary execution or extradition, but John nodded gravely. I'm sorry, sir, he said again. This is bad, I think. Yes, said Sings. John nodded again. Yes. But it'll be worse, much worse. She's dangerous. I shouldn't have left her alone. She wasn't this strong before. He nodded several times, as if cementing the idea firmly in his head. I'll have to take her away, sir. Where will you go? asked Sings. Somewhere far? Remote? John glanced at Sings, then away. I go there sometimes. It's safe. There's no one there.
Sorry.
You okay?
Wrong pipe for the tea.
I go there sometimes. It's safe. There's no one there. That's probably good, said Sings. Yes, sir. John paused, closed one eye and spat blue light. Nasilka cringed in memory of what that blue light could do. Finchbones cursed, dropped his crossbow, shaking his fingers. Blue light slithered over the weapon. I'm very sorry, sir, but she's my sister. Finchbones said something grim in Elvish to Sings. Nasilka recognized an order when she heard it. Sings said something right back. She didn't recognize that, but by the tone, Sings wasn't particularly concerned about following orders. He's a civilian, Finchbones. You can't court-martial him, much as you might want to. John reached up and grabbed the air as he had once before on the battlefield. Nasilka's stomach lurched again as he pulled downward, and the air showed somewhere else. It was daylight there. It looked like an alpine meadow. Mountains rose up towards a blue bowl of sky. Excuse me, sir, said John to the troll. Growl? Let her go, said Sings. And Mathian, you will not shoot one of my trolls, or I will raise hell clear to the great glade. Finchbones looked as if he had eaten something extremely sour. The troll handed her to John. Growl. She gulped a breath, and her brother promptly put a hand over her mouth. Only until we go through, he told her. Then you can do whatever you like. He stepped through the hole in the air. It hung for a second longer, long enough to see John release his sister and for her to gaze around with wide eyes, and then the hole closed and the fabric of the world healed itself. A silence fell. It did not break until Finchbones let out a long, disgusted sigh and picked up his no longer glowing crossbow. Sings reached down, dusted off the bear, and handed it back to Blanchett. And now, he said, I think we've all got rather a lot of talking to do. Three days later, the Silka sat in Sings to Tree's kitchen and peeled potatoes. Captain Finchbones, much decorated leader of elite elven rangers, sat next to her and peeled them as well. Sings seemed to feel it would be good for him. Finchbones could detach the entire peel in one continuous sweep of the knife, which was really impressive, but Nasilka's rather cruder technique produced 3 peeled potatoes for every one of his. There was probably some kind of deep philosophical point there, but Nasilka really wasn't inclined to go digging for it. It was pretty much all over now. The goblins would leave tomorrow for Goblin Home and be provided a ranger escort the entire way. Meanwhile, Finchbones and a small group of his men had been staying with things. They pretended they weren't there as guards, and Nasilka pretended her goblins weren't being guarded, and everyone was reasonably happy. Thumper had made a full recovery. So had Blanchett. The bear had a set of stripes sewn on his arm. It was possibly the first teddy bear in history to have received a medal for service to the Elven nation. Nasilka... Oh...
Oh, okay. Here you go.
Oh!
Medal for the bear. You okay?
Yeah. Oh.
Do you want me to read the next couple paragraphs?
I got it.
Okay. Here, have some water. Take just a quick emotion break.
Oh. Nasilka and Murray had them as well. They were delicate, silver leafy things, about what you'd expect from elven medals. You didn't know how long they'd last in combat, but it had been a nice gesture. Maybe more than a gesture. She glanced over at Finchbones. He smiled, thinking, wondering if this is really going to change anything. Finchbones nodded slowly. His command of the human language had improved somewhat from use, but it still took him a full minute to think through a complicated sentence. Sings to Trees had read him the riot act about not speaking the language of people under his protection, and Finchbones, to his credit, was trying. She suspected that his opinion of her had increased radically when she proved more eloquent than he was. Maybe change, he said finally. Don't know why anything changes. Maybe small thing. Nasilka tossed another potato on the pile. I think things will change, said Sings. It's a good story. People latch on to stories. He frowned into the soup he was making. We've got to do something anyway. Can you imagine putting that poor soul in the army? Finchbones and Nasilka exchanged glances. Best place for him, really, Nasilka thought. If your description's right, he needed structure and someone to tell him what to do. Pity they didn't get his sister too, or those people might still be alive. But you couldn't say that sort of thing to Sings to Trees. There was something very civilian about him. Nasilka concentrated on her potatoes. From what they'd been able to piece together, from the old man, and from what Sings had learned from the wizard in the few hours they'd spent together, a picture had emerged. John and Elizabeth had indeed been orphans in the village of Elliot's Cross, until the army had come to recruit John. Contrary to Elizabeth's complaints, he had gone willingly. Not like you could draft someone who can simply walk out through a hole in the air. Elizabeth's talents had been judged too weak to recruit, which meant that either someone had been incredibly short-sighted, or she had been too cunning to let anyone know the extent of her abilities, or her powers had increased dramatically. There were all sorts of reasons that could happen, from puberty to stress. There was just no telling. Frankly, they might have thought that dragging everybody towards you, friend or foe, was perhaps more trouble than it was worth. Now, they were on shakier ground, conjecture-wise, but apparently Elizabeth had not taken kindly to the people who were taking care of her, and refused to believe that her brother would go off without her. She had presumably decided the problem was the village, and if everybody in the village was gone, they would have to bring back John to take care of her. It was the sort of plan a child would come up with. Simple, self-centered, heartless. And there were over 40 dead humans and a great many dead animals as a result. Nasilka pitched another potato in the pile. The rest, of course, was fate. When the 19th had charged the wizard, he had panicked and tried to run. Possibly if they hadn't all piled through, he might have made it back to Elliot's Cross, but the shock had been too much and dropped them only partway to the goal. Probably all lucky, but didn't just vanish in some weird blue space between worlds. Finchbones was livid, understandably, knowing that there was a psychotic wizard on the loose, but they had no leads at all for where the pair might have gone. Nasilka was of the opinion that they had gone very far away indeed. Something about the view through the hole had seemed remote. Hopefully John could control his sister. Despite facing him over a battlefield, Nasilka wished him well. Someone yanked the door open, and 8 goblins piled into the kitchen. 2 elves followed, slightly more decorously, or as decorous as anyone can look, with an armful of zucchini. Sarge! Sarge! Sarge, the bear says, Sarge, I get to take Wiggles back to Goblin Home, right? I've been checking our maps, Sarge, against the elven ones, and our route takes us past a couple of human villages. Sarge, Mishkin hit me. Mushkin hit me first, Sarge. I can't leave Wiggles, Sarge. He'll pine. And I was hoping we might be able to purchase a couple of lenses for the Lucky Tube thing. He took my zucchini. It was my zucchini first. Nasilka put her hands over her eyes. Finchbones grinned down on the potatoes. Weasel hooked a finger into the raccoon's cage and stroked the top of his head. She dealt with things in order of importance. Wiggles goes with us, now Kitten left behind. Murray, we'll see how it goes. Blanchett, have the bear prepare a full report after dinner. Mishkin, Mushkin, I don't care who started it. It's my zucchini now, and you will both be washing dishes after dinner. She drew a deep breath and delivered the final inevitable coda. And Gluber, get your finger out of there. Ah. Well, at least things were getting back to normal. Maybe nothing would change, and the war would still go on. And they'd be right back to Gruel, marching up hillsides in the dark. Maybe Finchbones was right. You never knew why anything changed. Maybe it was all down to small things, like teddy bears, and kittens, and goblins. Oh,
She loves to kill you with those final lines, doesn't she?
oh, oh.
You're right.
Yeah, I'm good.
Breathe. Do you want to try the last line again?
Yeah.
Okay. Give yourself a second. It's okay. You are very in your emotions, and it is okay, and people appreciate it and appreciate you. It's okay. I know. It's been a rough couple weeks, and it's nice to have a stress sleep for kittens and teddy bears and goblins. And all the goblins lived, and the kitten lived. I bet the goat even lived. It's just not with them. It's
Chances
back
are.
with the rest of the 19th.
Okay.
You don't have to do the last line again if you don't want to. It's okay.
Take the landing.
Stick the landing.
Take the landing.
Stick the landing. One more for the tape.
Just one more take.
You can do it.
Maybe it was all down to small things, like teddy bears, and kittens, and goblins.
There we go.
There we are.
Well done. Well done.
Oof.
It's such a lovely ending, isn't it? You're right.
Yeah.
Shall we all have a cathartic moment or two of just how, all right, everybody, get yourself some tissues and some water, and maybe we'll all give ourselves a moment or two. Shall we take a little break? Everybody, why don't you get up and get a stretch and get some hydration, and then we'll come back and we'll process our feelings together, all right?
That sounds good.
That sounds good. We'll see you in a few.
Hey, folks.
Welcome back.
So, emotions processed?
Totes emotion. Very much needed an emotion break for that one. She just does this great job of having such impactful final lines and opening scenes.
Also, just the recurrent motif of, at the risk of sounding facetious, war, her, good God, y'all.
Yeah. War is hell. Yeah, very much
You
so.
know, the conversation with Finchbones at the end is a lot like the conversation with the uncle at the end of Wizard's Guide.
Yeah, it's...
They're kind of, what's this for?
yeah. It's well, we've all been through the ringer now, and we're trying to learn something from it, and maybe sometimes all we learn from it is, well, we're not dead, so let's not do that again, and let's move on. Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's so good. She writes so good.
She does write so
The reason why
good.
she wins all the awards. All the awards for Ursula.
Because A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking is now a multiple award winner.
That is correct, and is still up for the Hugo as well. So.
Should we shenanigan?
Yes! Hang on just a second, and let us move on over to the Shenanicam. There we go. There you lovely faces. Right. Shenanigans this evening.
Headline content warnings, horror themes, violence.
And violence.
This is Alone at Sea by Silver Color, and we will have, as always, the link in the show notes.
Excuse me.
It's cold and lonely when Peter takes his boat out. His nights are always lonely, of course, but this one could be described as lonely even by an outsider. The oppressive fog that came about the tundra at dusk hasn't let up, and it's hard to know what's right in front of you, never mind find another person on the understaffed cargo ship, or it's hard to find people even in broad daylight. And yet, that foggy isolation isn't enough, instead making Peter crave more. Because the solace of knowing there are other people about the ship, the safety of knowing there'll be other crewmates when you wake for breakfast or return from your night shift, sometimes even that is too much. So on nights like this, nights when the very world and weather are a reminder of what it is to be truly alone, Peter Lucas leaves the ship. He lowers one of the rowboats, rows far enough away that he cannot hear or see the tundra until the mists clear away entirely. He might drift, of course, but the endless expanse of ocean cannot reach him. Not unless the lonely itself wishes it so, in which case, well, Peter wouldn't argue anyway. But this night his wished for loneliness seems far away. Even adrift in his small boat, Peter struggles to feel truly alone. Elias hates nights like these. Nights when visibility above sea is next to nothing, and no sailor or passenger is fool enough to be out at night. It's impossible to lure anyone on nights like this, gnashing teeth entirely too sharp for anything but ripping and tearing. He swims on. Winter is always hard, when there are no tourist-filled boats out on coastal trips, conveniently getting lost between the cliffs and the open sea, and exactly where Elias leads them. He won't starve, of course. He's too competent a hunter for that. He just prefers real food over insignificant fish and sharp-beaked gulls. Then he spots the small boat drifting all alone. Its oars aren't moving, and though the boat lies deep enough in the water, he knows it isn't empty. Elias doubts he'll find anything worth his time out there. No one in their right mind wants to be out at sea on nights like these. Though the seagulls nesting on the cliffs are beginning to look more and more appealing by the day, is evidence enough of that, despite Elias's distaste for feathers and the stringy taste of their meat. Still, the hunger in the pit of his stomach urges him to check. Perhaps some poor soul lost himself tonight. Elias breaks the surface soundlessly, closer to the boat than would normally be safe, but for the mists that are making his hunting so difficult. At least they hide him well enough. Seated in the boat is a man, and Elias feels a slow smile pulling at his lips. Whoever this fool is, tonight will be his last night at sea. The man is sitting as though it were a perfectly balmy day, not huddled in his coat like the cold weather wants him to, weirdly enough. Perhaps his being lost out here is no accident, but that is hardly Elias's problem. And so, with a flick of his tail, Elias moves closer, slowly. In the boat, the man twists around sharply, looking in his direction. Drifting at sea and looking for a peace, or more accurately, looking for a loneliness that seems hard to find tonight, Peter Lucas senses a presence. No sound has alerted him, no sounds were even made, and yet he knows he is no longer alone. Twisting around, he peers through the mists, looking for whatever it is that has found him. To his surprise, he sees no other boats, no movement of any kind, except those eyes. A pair of eyes stare at him from just above the waterline, situated entirely too close together to be any kind of fish, and somehow luminescent despite the mist-filled night. Their shape is almost human, but no human could survive in a sea this cold, Peter thinks. The glowing things, surely they can't be ice. Finding a swimmer seems so unlikely this far out in the unforgiving winter seas. Move closer in the lazy, drifting zigzag, left and right, and Peter shakes his head. They're quite fascinating for some reason. Distracting. Beautiful. Maintaining eye contact is key. Elias sees the man shake his head as though shaking off an insect, but he keeps looking at the human and slowly, so slowly, moves closer. Equally slowly, the man leans forwards, mesmerized, closer to the edge of the boat and the water. Move too fast and the target won't have time to be caught up by him. Move too fast and they try to run. Not that the man could go anywhere this far out at sea. He'd tire from rowing long before Elias did. But the chase is his least favourite part of a hunt. It's tiresome. It's tedious and entirely unnecessary if he gets this first part right. Anyone who looks into his eyes long enough will find themselves distracted. And at sea, especially at night, distraction can mean death. Exactly as Elias intends. Closer to the boat, within reach of the oars, but out of reach of any grasping arms, Elias halts and he speaks. What he says here doesn't matter. Really, his prey will hear what they want, he thinks. Or perhaps they hear exactly what he says, but can no longer process the words. Elias has never been sure which it is. Regardless, the mesmer of his eyes and the mesmer in his voice convinces every human to join him in the water, and anyone who joins a siren in their waters is lost already. Come, swim with me, silly human. The mists are cold, the water is much warmer, and I am hungry. No, thank you. Elias reels back and blinks, foolish, breaking eye contact. The human shakes his head again and sits up straight. What are you, anyway? Actually, don't answer that. I came out here to be alone. Elias has no words. It didn't work. It always works. The hypnotic effect of his eyes and his voice has never failed him before. Certainly no man alone on a stupid little dinghy could be strong enough to resist him. Focusing back on his meal, Elias brings all of his powers to bear. If mesmerizing this man isn't enough, he'll outwit him. How hard could it be? The man's already gotten himself lost at sea. He has nowhere to go but down into the waters where Elias will wait for him. Or he could have waited if hunger had not already eaten away his patience. I can tell you what I am. I'd be happy to. Elias tries, because surely kindness will be the way. Information will lure into conversation, into just looking back into Elias's eye. Not really, I'm good. And the man turns away from him. He actually turns his back on Elias. How dare he? Elias ducks down into the water, swims under the boat, and surfaces on the other side, close to the edge, only far enough away so that he can look into the man's eyes over the side of the boat. Truly, this must be a test sent by the lonely itself, Peter thinks. Really should not be this hard to be alone at night, at sea, in the middle of the water, in the middle of the winter. The thing reappears on the other side of the boat, and Peter could turn away again, but he suspects the creature isn't patient enough to play this game for long. Now that it's closer, he can see its teeth, and for biting and killing, and what seem to be claws at the end of its webbed hands, and piercing, beautiful eyes. Those are a problem. Those eyes are a problem. The eyes seem to whisper, speaking promises, temptations, offering wishes. Except Peter can hear their lies, because the promises speak of the perfect place to be alone, to never have to see another being if he'll only join this creature in the water. And that doesn't make any sense. How can he be alone when this thing is with him? So he refused, politely, of course. One never knows when keeping formal distance can help, and now it will not leave him alone. Beautiful eyes move, and the mouth filled with shining teeth opens, and it says, I am Elias. What is your name? Human. In, around, behind the words, Peter hears the offer. What do you want? What do you desire? What can it, he, Elias, offer Peter? A dangerous promise, one of wish fulfillment and finality. I'm Peter, he says, resolutely not responding to the unspoken whispers. You must have questions, I'm sure, Elias says, and the longer Peter looks into those bright eyes, the more it feels like floating or drowning. He's not sure which. I do. The words escape him before he can catch them, and the glint of teeth on the water says it has not gone unnoticed. What would you like to know, is what Elias says. What can I offer you in return for your life, is what Peter hears, and it's a struggle to keep remembering that that is a bad thing, that he is in danger, that this Elias wants him dead. But he does remember, because the thing the whispers offer is the one thing Elias cannot give him. So instead of answering Elias's question, Peter tells the whispering, mesmerizing voices, I would like to be alone, forever. He can feel himself saying the words, but it's like he's nothing but a witness now, no longer an active part of his own words. I want to be somewhere I need never see another living being, to be swallowed whole by that hollowness, by the absence of any others. To truly be alone. The words are freeing, a release, and the whispers quieten as he speaks. It's why I cannot accept your offer, Elias. It's the last thing I want. The bright eyes that float above the water brighten, sharpen, and what Peter can only describe as anger. I can give you that too, silly human. It's called the ocean floor. No one will ever bother you again there. That much I can promise you. Peter isn't certain whether Elias misunderstood him, or if he's just not listening to what Peter is saying. I'm not looking for death, you silly fish, and that seems to be a mistake, as the look in Elias's eyes hardens. Really? Your actions suggest otherwise. The whispers have stopped. The silence around Elias's words deafening in their absence. All he hears is Elias and the threat in his voice, his eyes, his teeth, his claws. You are alone already, as there is no one out here to save you. At those words, Peter shifts back sharply from the edge of the boat. When had he leaned in that close? Because Elias is right. He is alone. No one knows where he is. No one could find him here if anything happened. He is truly alone and hadn't even realized it. The mist swirled closer in response. The lonely was there all along. But it took someone else pointing that out for Peter to see. Oh, is all he can say, and Elias seizes his chance to press his advantage. Do not ask if anyone will find your corpse. There will be nothing left to find. Tell me, human, will anyone even miss you? Elias is just warming up to this. He so rarely gets the chance to threaten anyone. When Peter says something absolutely, utterly unthinkable. Thank you, Elias. What does one say to that? What can Elias say to that? What can he say to his prey thanking him? He has no idea. Elias blinks, confused, not even thinking about maintaining eye contact now. It's hardly helped him so far anyway. Peter sees the light in those eyes dim, and though they become less hypnotizing, they are no less beautiful like this. Thank you for helping me realize that, Elias. Peter thinks for a moment. What can he do for Elias in return? He's certainly not about to offer his own life, but perhaps something else. You said you were hungry. Those gorgeous eyes. Peter thinks they might be green, though it's hard to tell while the mists cover the night. Stare at him in confusion, and when no answer is forthcoming, Peter continues, my ship can't be far. There's one or two members of the Night Watch tonight who will not be missed. Or not much, anyway. If that should interest you. Judging by the gleam in Elias's eyes, that does interest him indeed. The next morning, breakfast is quiet. Less crowded than usual. 2 members of the Night Watch on the cargo ship, the Tundra, have vanished, never returning from one of their last rounds before dawn. Peter warms his hands around a cup of coffee. Last night was such a terribly cold night. Who knows what happened to those poor men? Elias keeps an eye out after that, and every now and then the ship returns, the Tundra, Peter calls it. He attempted to explain to Elias once what a Tundra was. Didn't have much success. To Elias, who only knows this one Tundra, it means an easy meal and even a much rarer gift. A conversation. Perhaps even a friend.
Peter.
Isn't that lovely?
Peter, did you feed your crew to your boyfriend?
And horrible.
Wow. Oh, thank you so much, Shiny. I'm sorry Silver can't join us, but yeah, we'll definitely look forward to the reaction to the VOD. Thank you so much for letting us read this.
Such a good job, Silver.
The friend you eat along the way. Oh my. Wow.
I just really like the idea of Peter going hyper-British. You know, when Elias is in full trust in me. He's like, no thank you.
Right.
Not today.
I'm not interested in donating. I gave it the office, which is quite literally true. Wow.
Or perhaps he took at the office.
Took at the office.
Yes.
Oh. They really are such evil bastard men, and we love them so much.
Terrible old men.
Terrible old men we love so very much. Oh, thanks for dealing with the trolls, everybody. Just ignore them. You know,
Yeah.
they're on the watch. Whatever.
It happens, you know, perils of being on an open internet.
Yeah, Exactly. By the way, I yelled at Nate on Twitter, how very dare you, sir, gumption to dumption. And he responds with, could you, though? So, everybody wag your finger at Nate on Twitter, would you please? We'll make sure that he's included in the show notes.
The phrase Ramo with bears is going to be written on my tombstone.
Oh I know. Yes, the only trolls we need are written by Ursula. Did everybody like the little Avengers moment with the trolls?
Gra, 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 gra.
We've been workshopping that like all day. Like when is Frog Mouth, whatever his name, Smasher,
Frog
Snoggler gonna stomp in like the Avengers? It was adorable. Diversity win. The evil boat captain Phoenix crew to Marine Carnivores is gay. Happy Pride, everyone! What a way to wrap up Pride. Oh, wow.
I love that Sings the Trees gets a little Garrus moment right at the end there. By the way.
Oh, the little I'm going to lean on you, don't you freaking dare shoot my troll?
Yes. For those of you who don't know, there is a moment in one of the Mass Effect games where where the best space boyfriend ever, Garrus Vakarian, who the last time you met him was a cop.
I know, but now he's like a vigilante bad boy with half his face blown off and he tangos.
Seems to be
because he knows Elias. Jesus. Because he knows Shepard can't dance. It's so meta. I love it so very much.
But at one point, he gives fairly high-ranking generals an order, and they snap to it. And you have this wonderful piece of dialogue where Shepard's like, just how high-ranking are you, Garrus? And his response is, let's not get into that now. And you never do.
Yes. I know. Oh gosh, I haven't even dived into. Oh no, no Mass Effect 3 fanfic, Marguerite.
You just figured out that Mass
Effect,
the
gravity well for which I will never,
there it is,
ever escape. Wow.
Anyway, that's our show.
That's our show. Everybody.
Thank you so much for joining us. Aside from the trolls, rethink your lives, and. We can find us again on Sunday.
That's right.
When we will be playing Space Camping.
And it will be the 4th of July, so I may be baking an apple pie. I haven't decided yet.
Hail to the chief. He's the one we all sing hail to.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay. No, but 4th of July means I listen to my favorite version of the 1812 overture that involves canon and Campanile and a choir. It's really nice. And we usually watch V for Vendetta.
Yes.
Because we're classy.
America,
exactly. And then we got a slice of apple cake from the local Polish bakery the other day, and it was seasoned strangely. It wasn't bad, but it had like this combination of almost Christmas spices. It had like orange peel and clove, and it was like, this is good, but this is not what I'm craving when it comes to apple pie. So
it was a brilliant visual experience, though, because it was square and heavy. It was like, what is this? Is cake? What's in it? Apple.
It was very dense. Exactly. Sparklers, don't I wish? So here in the UK, the only time of year you can buy fireworks is November for bonfire night.
Yep.
And we didn't have any place to securely store fireworks until the following July. But maybe this year in November we'll buy some and save them for the following July. We've done that before.
And in fact, I distinctly remember when we lived in Milton Keynes, you put together the little message which we passed around like 2 blocks in every direction.
I sent notes to all my neighbors going, I'm really sorry, I'm American, I'm going to be loud and there will be fireworks this evening. Please let your pets know accordingly. So that was nice. So yeah, we will be back on Sunday with more Haven, where we've like hit a plot point now, and we have like a piece of our dinged up camper fixed.
Our space camper van.
And we have like a new food stuff to cook with.
Yes.
And then next week, Jen Williams will be joining us to talk about Dog Rose Dirt, which is her crime debut, which was really good. And which Alistair started it is now terrified of the attic.
Aussie Scribblers on the saying, us Poles bake a lot of yeast-based confectionery.
Yes.
It did have that kind of slightly bready texture to it. I actually dug it quite a lot.
Enriched dough, a dough that has won the butter lottery. You say that like it's a bad thing.
I kind of want to go back and get a piece of forest moss. now.
Yeah, there was a bunch of different types of cakes. We'll give them a try. Nate says, "Oh my crikey, I just woke up for a bit. I'm going back to sleep now, but I'm going to feed off the psychic energy of the VOD for breakfast. This will be good." Oh, I love it. Fantastic.
Superb.
I don't think it's moss-flavored cake, Eldritch. No, I think it just has...
It's called forest moss.
I think it just has... It's a dark chocolate cake with... It looks like a pistachio layer in it.
Pistachio.
This is a yeast risen cake, none of the GB baking powder gibberish.
It's spinach.
I don't care.
Wow.
Is it spinach?
Going to scribble. I have to have this now.
Spinach chocolate cake is totally going to happen. I will eat that.
Oh.
Forest moss cake has spinach. All right, I'm definitely going back for a slice. That does it.
We will report back.
Exactly. Anything else? Full lid on Friday?
Hugo nominated newsletter. See me go 10 rounds with Bo Burnham's inside and lose. Will be Friday at 5.
Hey now.
Then we're on Haven on Sunday, and then we're back here with Jen on Wednesday.
Right, that sounds good.
Oh, we had a couple of notes in the notes.
We have notes in the notes?
There's always notes in the notes.
What's the notes in the notes?
Summer interview series, which we've already touched on. We are taking suggestions for shenanigans.
Ah, yes. So if people have some more shenanigans that they want to recommend, please go ahead and send them to the mods. Or you can send them our way on Twitter, and we'll get them to the right people to take a look through. We don't promise that we'll read everything and anything that you send, but we're always happy to have stuff to consider, especially if it's something where we might be able to share it. That's always really fun.
And also, the stream show notes will be up shortly. Remember, they now come out through the EA Podcasts Twitter account, not mine. I'm just the guy that runs onto the end and goes, "Look, this thing."
Exactly.
And thank you again, Ozzy. We will definitely try for the marble babka as well.
And we will let you know.
And bun cake, because I like big buns.
And you cannot lie.
Yes. And on that note, we shall leave it for the evening.
All right. Have a great evening,
everybody. Have a good one, folks.
And we'll see you on Sunday.